All right, all right, all right. I trust we are all doing excellent today. This is Minister Stein with you all. I trust you guys are doing excellent. Today we are gonna do a session where we are gonna discuss basically how you mix worship vocals. It is a request that I got from Christian Ofosu, who asked me to do this. Okay, so that is what we are going to be dealing with today. So when you tune in, just make sure that you understand what is going on here. Okay, so first off, let's hear a little bit of something so we can get a feel for this. Right, cool. So, first off, okay, I'm gonna tell you guys I'm not gonna play this whole track because this is my own worship medley that we are working on. It's not out yet. So, for the purposes of doing this lesson, I am gonna focus on just the small portion where there's a lot more vocals, so I can use that to teach you guys. Okay. All right. So first things first, the goal is to teach you how to mix worship vocals. So we are not going to focus too much on the instrument. Okay. So let's hear it again, just the vocals. Right, I'm just gonna let it play a little bit. All right, cool. So, first things first, okay? So, first things first, my primary DAW is Logic, okay? That's why what I use more. However, I've been kind of getting accustomed to Studio One just to get a feel for it because I'm kind of working on the Windows a lot lately. And so I needed something on the Windows environment so I don't have to always keep jumping back and forth. So that's why I kind of use Studio One a lot more nowadays, although I have it on the Mac also, but I just happen to be on the Windows a lot more, and I can't have Logic on the Windows, okay? So just so you guys know, my primary DAW is Logic, but what I'm gonna teach, you can do it in Logic, you can do it in Cubase, Pro Tools, Studio One, Ableton, whatever the DAW of your choice, okay? All that matters is you record your song and you have the tracks laid out similar to what I have here, okay? So you have your instruments and you have your vocals, and we just get to the mixing. Okay, so let's deal with that separately. Okay, so first things first, my first step, anytime I am mixing a song, this is the first thing I do. I zero out the board. Okay, you guys realize my voice is here, okay, but I have zeroed it out because I don't want you guys to hear my voice, because the song is not really out, or the track is not really done yet. But if I was to play a little part for you, you would hear my voice, as you can hear here. Dead. Lord, our hearts are wounded today. So, Lord, we are here as we are. You guys hear my voice, right? All right, cool. So obviously that is zeroed out. So once I zero it out, you will not hear anything. You guys see that? You don't hear anything. It's zeroed out. Okay. So first things first, anytime I'm mixing a song, my first priority is to zero out the track, the board. Okay. So like this. So I zeroed it out. It was all here. I selected it all and I zeroed it out. Okay. Cool. So now that is zeroed out, if I was to say I want to play this part, and I was to solo it, you wouldn't hear anything. Why is that? Because it's zeroed out. But that once I start bringing it up, you hear it. Okay. Cool. So I always like to zero it out. Okay. So that's the first thing. Second thing, I find the most busiest part of the song. Okay. So say in this situation, I figured this part is more busy. So then I'm going to select that part that is a lot more busy, and I'm going to just solo it out. Why am I doing that? Because I want to focus on hearing. So let me give you guys a prime example. You guys see there's an empty space here. There's an empty space here. In mixing all the time, you don't have the time to keep going back and forth. So what you would do is you will select a specific part where it's going to have the vocals. Then you're going to loop it out, okay? So see an example of that. Then you see how it's playing. Then when it gets to the end, it will not go too long. It will go back to the top. You guys see that? So that you don't waste all that space here, especially if you don't have time, okay? So that is exactly what we are going to do, except we are going to give ourselves maybe some small little room, headroom, to kind of just have some silence or whatever. Okay. And then here. You guys see that? Like that. So the second thing I like to do is to find a part that is busy and loop out. If you guys have a question, send. If I see it, I will answer it or I'll work on it for you, okay? Okay, good. So, real quick, the first thing that I like to do is number one, I like to zero out the board like you've seen me do. The next thing, I like to find a part where it's more busy so I can focus on the voice, okay? And then I work from there, okay? So that is the first two things I like to do, okay? So it's two things. When I zero it out, then I always like, one second, I always like to solo one. Okay, first things first, anytime we are doing BVs, we do it 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. What do I mean by that? Left ear, right ear, right here. So for example, alto, left alto, right alto, maybe tenor, left tenor, right tenor, maybe treble, left treble, right treble, okay? So we can have a very nice stereo mix, okay? So the A that you are seeing, that AA or A2A and all that, that's what that is referring to. So let me zero this out and bring this up rather. So if I have A2, A2, that's what that is, okay? If I have a B and a B2 is the same, okay? It means it's the same part. That's all it is. And if I have a D and a D2 is the same part. Oh, you guys know how I like to do mine. I like to do mine 1L, 1R, 2L, 2R. I don't have the time to do all that in this lesson, or it's going to take a lot of time. Okay, so we are not going to worry about those kind of things. Let's focus more on the mixing aspect of it. Okay, cool. So first things first, zero out the board. Second thing, go ahead and solo out a part you want to keep hearing over and over and over. Okay, so now that I have that, now the third thing, I'm going to solo one of the parts that I want to work on. So in this case, I have a part soloed. Let's hear it.
My Messiah is able to heal.
So the next
My
So the next question you might be asking yourself is, how high should I be mixing, right? So how I look at this is based on how I have my instruments mixed. I mix my vocals in there. But from the start, it doesn't hurt to just start from anywhere between -4, which is like this here,
my Messiah.
or keep it neutral at 0.
My Messiah is able.
Okay, so that's how I like to do it. Okay, so the first thing, I'm gonna keep it neutral at 0 to start off. Again, I will do it different based on where I'm at in the mix. Maybe the mix is already hot, so doing negative whatever is not gonna help. So I might need to start from 0 because I won't hear it well and all that. Okay. Anyways, we're taking a bit too long. Let's move on. So the next step is we are now gonna start mixing this very track. So what is the first few things that I like to do? So let me make this big so we can see the bars, so we can understand a few things. So this is tiny. Let's make this maybe large. Yeah, nice and big. Okay, so here's the deal. This is the track that we are mixing, the one that's soloed. Okay, so you guys can tell it's pretty nice and balanced. There's a lot of breathing room over here. Okay, and there's a lot of breathing room over here. So if it was not recorded well, it will be so big, and you see how big this is? It will be bigger, and then it will just look messy. It's nice and good. So that is how we want it. We want it to look something like this with some breathing room for us to work, because as we are mixing, it's going to start getting bigger. Okay, so the first thing that I like to do, okay, let me move this up a little bit, and let me move this up a little bit. By the way, I'm using Studio One. Like I said, I am a Logic person, but I use Studio One to mix. I'm using Studio One for the purpose of this video. All right, sorry about that, guys. All right, so let's make this even bigger. Right, nice. So this is even bigger. All right, so let's hear it one more time before I move on.
My Messiah is able to heal. My Messiah is able to heal.
All right, so the first thing you have to understand is our job when we are mixing is to get rid of any background noises or any noise that interfere with the direct signal. All these small little things, extras that be happening, the background stuff. Our job is to get rid of that. So we treat that with a tool that is called gating. Okay, gate, Gate, to gate it. So when we say we are gating something, what we are saying is we are trying to cut out everything that is not really being recorded directly to the mic, that kind of thing. So anywhere there's more of a dead silence, the gating is going to hit it hard. And anywhere that there is more of an input signal happening, the gating is going to be very careful with how it gates. Okay, so that is it. So if you gate too much, you're going to affect the vocal. So you don't overgate. Okay, if you overgate, it's going to sound bad. Okay, so first step. Okay, well, we've talked about the first few steps, but now we are talking about mixing. So my first thing I like to do in mixing, okay, first things first, when I hear a voice like this, what I like to do is, first things first, I like to maybe add an, let's say, a vocal compressor. Okay, and I like to add that on. It's a mono signal, so sometimes I like to do it this way. You know, keep it mono, okay? But I always listen to make sure.
My Messiah.
Cool. So what I'm gonna use this compressor to do, okay? So you guys might not see. I'm a very traditional person. So let me make it bigger for some of you guys who may want it bigger. I believe 150s. Yeah, let's make it bigger like that. Okay. Yeah, maybe I can make it even way bigger to help some of you guys who really need to see it. Okay, cool. So my goal when I'm mixing, when I'm compressing, okay, here's the thing. When I'm compressing, my job is to make sure that I want the vocal to come up front as possible, okay? The idea is to bring the vocal up front as possible. So the first two things that in most mixing sessions we do is EQ and compression. I am only deciding to do compression, okay, because normally what I like to do is I like to make sure that my signal is not being affected before compression. So I've always liked to compress to get it up front a little bit, not too crazy. Then I equalize. Then once I equalize, then I start adding some treatments and all that. Then I add a final compression. Some people might do parallel compression in this situation. Okay, all right. So that is what I'm going to be doing. But the idea, so let's hear it right now as it sounds without a compression. Just hear it.
My Messiah.
Now I'm going to add a compression. Hear how it sounds.
He's able to heal.
I'm going to take it off.
My Messiah.
Back on.
He's able to heal.
So one thing you realize is as I add the compression, I haven't done any compression yet, and her voice is peaking somewhere around here. The idea is when I use this plugin, I cannot be peaking so bad. And I'm going to show you guys a bad example right now so you guys get me.
My Messiah, he's able to heal.
You guys see that? Don't do too much and peak so bad. Let it just come slightly in the red, but not too much. Ideally, for me personally, I like to stay somewhere between the 6 and the 12, okay? I am more of a traditional guy, so I go for this. Those of you guys who like fancy stuff will probably go for the new look. That looks like this or like this. For me, I am more used to working the way I've always been working. I like legacy stuff. This is how it naturally was. I like working that way. If you like being cool or having the most updated version, this is it, okay? But let's start with the legacy. So for me personally, I keep the gain there. Some people might lower it if it is so hot. In this audio, it's not. I'm not going to worry about changing the gain. I keep it at 0. I normally don't mess with my output gains. Okay. So let's compress it little by little so we see how it looks like in real time. Okay. All right.
My Messiah, he's able to heal. My Messiah, He's able to heal.
Okay, so with the compression with it, I think this is pretty fine. So in this situation, you can decide if you want, if you were doing in the other looks, this compression that I've done would look like this. So it's nothing different. You just literally drag it like I dragged it. I'm just more used to the other legacy look, okay? So that's all we've done. We've just basically dragged it here to get our look, okay? Cool, let me go back. Now that I have my compression, now remember I said something about gating? Normally, this is what I do. When I look at this audio, it doesn't have so much of a background noise that I need to worry about, okay? And so if it did, normally what I like to do is I like to add a little bit gating, not a lot, a little bit in here. Then after that, I'm going to add an actual dedicated gating plugin. You got it? So that's how I like to go about with it. I kind of double gate, okay? A little bit of gating on this all-in-one plugin, then I add another gating. I like to sometimes do that. So let me show you how that will look like. So here.
My Messiah, He's able to heal. My Messiah, He's able to heal. My Messiah.
All right. That sounds pretty fine to me, okay? So
My Messiah, He's able to heal.
all right. If you want to see how it looks like in others, this is how it's going to look like in other looks, okay? That's if you need it. All right. So by the way, I'm mixing with waves, okay? Waves. Okay. So that is, I normally like to use waves. Okay. So that's how I go about with compressing my first, adding the first compression. Then it's going to come to the EQ. With the EQ, I'm going to use something called Renaissance EQ. Okay. And let's go for the 6. And when it comes to EQ, most times I go the stereo route. All right, so let's do 200, make it big. All right. And here's the thing. Let's hear the audio as it sounds without EQing.
My man.
So if you guys hear the first, we hear a pop right there. Of course, we can cut it out, but we're going to try and treat everything with gating. Then after that, we're going to deal with things we cannot get rid of with manual work, okay? So you hear the pop. That is the first negative.
My Messiah.
Breathe in right here. Right? We need to watch all those.
He's able to heal. My Messiah, He's able to heal.
All right, and here, you know, you hear this noise like the background, right? So our goal is to treat that with gating. Anyways, when it comes to EQing, all right, I like to use plugins that are able to show me an analyzer. Okay, so that I like those better. You see analyzer. So when I play, you will see you see how you see those bars.
He's able.
Okay, I like to use analyzers. Okay, so that way, it guides me a little bit. Okay, I have presets that I save that I can always just go and pick one of my presets because these are our, you know, our vocalists we work with all the time. So if it's anything that I need, I could always put a preset. For the purpose of doing the lesson, let's actually go through it. So with this REQ, this is what I'm going to be doing.
To my
So there are some low frequencies that need to be cut out, okay? So I'm going to treat that by clicking on this here. It's going to cut it out.
Messiah.
You guys see how it cut it out? Okay, so that's what it is.
My man.
Now you can decide to change it more into more of a, you know, more of a high pass, more of a high pass. You can decide to make it into more of a low shelf. You can decide to make it low shelly. Okay, that's the name they give it here. You can make it more of a low shell or bell. Normally I just stick with high pass and low pass. Okay, so in this situation, that cut that we are making here is kind of like a high pass, and then basically high pass filters and low pass filters. Okay, so my goal is to kind of do a low cut. Okay, so that's what I'm doing right here. So how do I know how much I cut? Again, the analyzer is going to help me.
My Messiah.
So we see let me make it lower. I'm going to lower the volume so I can talk so you guys can understand me better. Okay. Okay. So watch this. So you guys can see there is a lot more energy in this area here. You know, and in vocals we don't need the low notes, okay? Unless if it's a bass singer or something and you hear her voice, it doesn't have low notes in there. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna cut it to right about where you're seeing a lot of energy. You see a lot more energy is here. So what we're gonna do, you can either decide to cut it this way, right? Or you can just move it. Now, if the cut is too steep, then you can make some adjustments like I'm trying to do so you don't cut too much, okay? If you don't want to cut too heavy. All right, let's hear without the EQ and with the EQ. So without the EQ.
He's able to heal
with the EQ. All right, that's all we've done. Just a low cut, okay? All right. So that is the first thing I like to do. Then I also like to also do a low pass as well, or a high cut. Either a high cut, low pass, however you want to see it, okay? So I like to use the word cut more. Low cut, high cut, okay? So I'm going to now cut the high also, okay? So let's hear how that's going to sound like. But first off, let's look at the analyzer. You see, it doesn't say you need to cut. So if you're going to be cutting, I'm not saying it tells you what to do, but I'm telling you it guides you. It tells you where a lot of your frequencies are. So don't cut too much and mess it up. Just a little bit, okay? So what we're going to do with that is we're going to go ahead and change this to a high cut, to a low pass, okay? If it doesn't have it, just keep clicking till you see it. You see how it looks like? And we are going to adjust it like we adjusted here, okay? So you're going to see it. So let's see how it sounds like. You see all the highs are a lot of the highs are gone, so we got to bring it back, right? Let me
My
see.
Messiah, He's able to heal. My Messiah, He's able to heal. My Messiah, He's able
All right.
to
To me, somewhere like that is fine. Just don't cut too much because there's so many information in here you want to keep.
heal. My
All right. So now, after that, what I like to do is I like to also isolate, or not isolate per se, but cut out anything in the, I guess, um, somewhere like the mid lows. I want to also cut it also out a little bit, okay? Because we don't need as much of those notes. So this is going to represent that, okay? So let's see how that looks like.
My Messiah, He's able to heal. My Messiah, He's able to heal.
All right. So this plugin is kind of weird because the display, it's hard for you to see certain things. Okay. In Logic, when I do it, you can see it, you can really see the cut. But with this, it's kind of hard. You just got to use your ears and kind of, um, you know, understand the concept. Okay.
My
So now with these three bands, I'm going to use it to find frequencies that I want to basically take out. So you realize a lot of the things I'm doing is I'm taking things out. I'm not really boosting. Okay. I'm not boosting. Some people like to do a high boost. I don't do that. Now I may, if it's a very, it's needed, but I have other things that you can use to treat that. Okay. So let's go ahead and work on these frequencies. So the first thing I realize is there's a high peak right here.
He's
And
able.
right in between here, we have somewhat of a we have a little bit of less energy in here. So my goal is I'm going to find a frequency somewhere in between here. Okay, somewhere in between here, and I'm going to basically find a way to cut that out. Okay, so let's hear. The audio is clean, so you don't need to do much to it. Okay, but I just want to help you understand how you will EQ. Okay.
My Messiah, He's able to heal. My
Okay,
Messiah,
so I want to get that out.
He's
All right. So
able.
now the way I'm gonna go about it with that is, as it's playing, I'm gonna just round it off and not cut it too much, so I don't lose too much body, or the voice is gonna start sounding light. So don't do moderate cuts, not too much of heavy cuts, unless if needed.
To heal. My Messiah, He's able to heal. My
Without the EQ,
Messiah, He
with the EQ.
is able to heal.
All right. Right now you probably don't see a lot of difference, but as we are adding more energy, you will see the benefit of it. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and see some other frequencies in here we may want to work with.
My Messiah, He's able to heal. My
All right. So right about there, there's some
He's
type of
able
noise I like to get out. Okay.
heal. My
All right, cool. And for me personally, an EQ like this, I'm good with. Okay, I don't know about you, but for me, an EQ like this, I'm good with. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and move on to the next. Oh, we're gonna take forever. Oh, so this is what I forgot to do. So I always like to show you, if you are in the other look, yours should look something like this. Okay, if you're in the other look, you should look like that. Okay, all right. It all depends on the view you want. Let me see, 150. All right. So if you're in the other look, you can have it like this. If you in the dark look, you should have it like this. Okay. Like I said, I like to keep everything legacy. I'm just more used to that. Okay, but it's up to you. So you see in the other look, it looks almost the same, really. Um, anyways. So whichever way works for you, whichever way looks good to you, whatever. I don't really care about looks. All right, cool. So now that I've done my compression and then I've done my EQ, my next thing that I'll be doing. Let's see if I have any questions. Okay, cool. Now that I've done my compression, I've done my EQ, the next thing that I'm going to be doing is my gating to try and get away background noise and stuff like that. Okay, so let's work on that.
My
At at the
Messiah.
same time, breathing. So the gating should be also helping with the breathing. All those, you see, right? Not too much, but a little bit. I don't want to take it entirely out, but just help with it. Okay.
He's able to heal
So I'm gonna use a
my
gating plugin.
Messiah.
Um,
He's able to heal
all right. You can decide to use mono or
my
stereo, whatever gives you the good result.
Messiah. He's able to heal,
You see, the more I cut it, you see how it's messing with the audio. You guys see that?
to heal my Messiah.
You see, it's not
He's
helping too much.
able
So
to
let's see how the beginning sounds like.
heal my
You guys see how like this one was making more noise, but now it's more softer. So that's what the gating does. You see how it's a bit softer? If the gating is not there,
my
you hear it a bit more, right? So that's what the gating does.
my Messiah. He's
You see how the breathing is a bit more gentle? The breathing is a bit more gentle.
he
If I don't, you see, all right. So it's a bit more gentle.
He's able to heal my
You don't want to do it
Messiah.
too much, or you affect the
He's
audio too much.
able
Okay, so be
to
careful.
heal my Messiah.
Okay.
He's able to heal my Messiah. He's able to heal.
And you guys realize there was some noise at the back, but now let's see how it sounds. We can barely hear it, right? So you see the power of gating. If we take it off, you can hear it a bit more, right? But now if we do the gating, it's harder to hear. Okay, cool. So let's just say we are okay with this gating, okay? Cool. Then the next thing that I like to do in my chain, once I do that, of course, if you want to add fab filter stuff too, you can. I'm not too much of a big fan of that, because I have a physical filter on my mic. So Well, this is not my own recording, but when I record at the studio, okay. But if you want to add a filter, sure you can. I'm not going to go into that because it's really not my thing. I really don't do a lot of that, okay. But once we do the gating, the next thing I would do is something like an exciter. So maybe add a little bit of excitement. You guys remember? Okay, before I do excitement, let me do something. REQ. Okay, and let me show you guys something. So you guys remember how I told you guys I never boost the high like that ever? I hope you guys remember that. So some people will do that to get some highs happening. So watch like this.
My
You guys see how it brought some high energy? So hear it.
Messiah, he's
It's cool and all that. For me, I don't like it because I feel like it messes with your EQing really. So what I rather like to do is instead of doing that, I'll rather add an exciter. Okay. So for me personally, I'll go with an exciter. All right. So let's hear how the exciter sound like out of the box.
my Messiah.
Okay.
He's able to heal my Messiah.
So you guys see it's very, 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 very bright. Okay. It has some presets. If you want to work with some presets, that's fine. But let's say vocals and you want to do female vocal touch up, maybe.
My Messiah, he's able to heal my Messiah, he's able to heal
All right. So
my Messiah.
for me personally, I like to keep my output on my plugins at 0. Okay, so let me do that.
My Messiah, he's able to heal my Messiah, he's able to heal my Messiah. He's able to heal my Messiah.
Okay.
He's able to heal my Messiah.
So I'm gonna keep both my input and my output at 0 all the time. Okay, and I'm gonna rather work with this to kind of help with the brightness.
He's able to heal my Messiah. He's able to heal my
The bottom line to using this plugin, let me just give you the basics of it. Okay, so the basics of it is this: you change it to mix 1. This stays at output, and then for the input, you see how it's high? No, keep it at 0. I don't really know because I changed the preset. That's why. And then with this, even if you're gonna lower it, let it be just a little bit, not too deep like that. Okay. So for me, back to 0. Okay. And now let's work with it.
Messiah. He's able to heal my Messiah. He's able to heal my Messiah.
You guys see that? When I took it off, you guys saw that?
You, my Messiah. He
It makes it warmer when I don't have it.
is able
It makes it brighter when I have it. Watch, without it,
heal. My
with it.
Messiah, He's able to heal.
You guys see that?
My
Cool. So I may decide to
Messiah, He's
I may decide to
able.
adjust it later, but for now it's cool. So now that I've added that, okay, there is something that I sometimes like to do for the breathing and the popping. Like if somebody was doing that, I'll use something called um, let me see. Um, so something like this this C1 compressor slash gate here, because it has the depupper and the deesser, and you can work with it that way, okay? Or um, you can also work with an actual deesser from your DAW, like here. Studio One has some. Or you could do some deessing. Um, um, Let me see. Um, comp. Come on. Sorry about that, guys. Okay, so that's a lot. Okay, but let's just pick one and move forward. Okay, so let's go ahead and use what I picked. Okay, and we are gonna, you know, you can go with a DSR and then work that way, or you could also do, I believe, the mono. Yes, you could do the mono and then get some, female S's and sh. Okay, so let's see. Let's work with a few.
My Messiah, He's able to heal. My Messiah, He's able to heal.
Okay, toots.
My Messiah, He's able to heal. Able to heal. My Messiah, He's able to heal.
Okay.
My Messiah, He's able, He's able, He's able, He's able, He's able, He's able.
All right. Sometime you can do a side chain just to kind of hear a little better. Well, not better, but to you get some comparative hearing. Okay. All right.
He's
The
able,
reality is, for me personally, I don't go overkill, so I'm gonna just kind of just not use too much.
He's able to heal.
All
My
right. And actually, sometimes I like to put that even before I do the brightness, anyways.
Messiah.
If I wanted to do a depupper, I will, but there's no in this. Okay, so I'm not even gonna worry about it. Okay. So then the next thing
My Messiah, He is able to heal. My Messiah.
Okay, cool. So the next thing that for me I would worry about adding is I'll add something like the fresh air. Okay. It's kind of brightness too. So you guys see why I went subtle with the apex, because I my plan is to use fresh air. You don't need to use both, but I like kind of working with both in my mixes. So it just adds a little bit of nice sweetness to it. Okay, so let's hear it.
My Messiah, He is able to heal. My Messiah, He is able to heal. My Messiah.
I normally like to stay anywhere between 30, and let's say 45, maximum 50. Okay. Normally I like to stay somewhere between that. Okay.
My Messiah.
Okay. So for now, let's just go with that.
My
And because of that, I'm going to even reduce the apex brightness even more.
Messiah, He is able to heal.
Without the two,
My
you see, it's just a bit more darker and warmer. With the
Messiah,
two,
He is
you can
able
kind of
to
hear the subtle
heal.
brightness.
My
I think it's fine. Okay. So normally I like to do my pitch correction. Okay. I'm not gonna really take time to do a lot of that, but I'm gonna show you just in case if you don't know how to do it. Okay, in this situation, every door is going to be different. In Logic, you just double click and you just kind of analyze the audio, and then you use your flex pitch. In Studio One, I haven't really figured out a way other than Melodyne and probably using other third-party stuff. Okay, so I'm going to just click with edit with Melodyne. Okay, and that will analyze. It's doing its own analyzation, as you can tell, and it puts it in mono. Okay, see, this is the first time I'm even seeing this. Cool. So it does similar to what Logic does. Okay, cool. So you see, it does that and it gives you the notes and all that. So now you can edit it.
Messiah,
Say if a note is not strong enough, you can try and put it in tune.
He is
And
able
you got to do this now just for here. All of the notes. So it takes time, but I'm not going to do it. I'm just showing you.
to heal. My Messiah, He is able to. He is able.
Maybe here. If let's just say I'm just giving you an example. Maybe if that's what you wanted to do.
He is able. He is able.
Okay, you guys see that?
He is able to.
So you guys got it? So you do this, okay? So you fix all the notes if the person went off key and all that, okay? So that is just to show you so you kind of have an idea how that looks like, okay? Cool. And once you do it in Studio One, that's it. You don't have to do anything else. Okay. I'm still kind of learning my way through Studio One, so I'm not perfect. Okay, cool. So the next thing is to also figure out the key the song is in. Okay, so for example, there's something called auto key, which is the kind of works with auto tune. So if I wanted to know the key this is in, I can have it do its thing.
My Messiah, He's able to heal. My Messiah, He's able to heal.
Okay, so that is saying it's in B plus minor. Let me have it do it again.
My Messiah, He's able to heal. My Messiah, He's able to heal.
All right, cool. If you have the time to work through that, that's fine. For me personally, I have a piano here, so I can just turn on my piano and just kind of figure it out without having to do all that.
My Messiah.
But remember, you are going to be the one programming, so by this time you will know the key already. This is a situation where I'm kind of putting something together for you guys, so I have to kind of find it.
He's able to heal my
So
Messiah.
this is G sharp, okay? So G sharp or A flat, okay? So we are going to do some auto tune. Okay. And let's hear it.
My Messiah. He's able to heal.
So first things first is you got to know the scale that is in. You see how um auto key said it's in B flat minor? So put it in B flat minor and watch what happens. See if it's accurate.
My
So let me actually make the retune big so you can really hear it.
My Messiah, He's able to heal. My Messiah, He's able to
You
heal.
guys see it's not that all that perfect, right? All right. So of course you got to do some treatment. So for me personally, knowing that is G sharp, it's a major. I like to keep all my auto tune in major for the most part. And the key, I'm gonna set it to whatever the real key is. So in this case, it's A flat, right? G sharp or A flat. And then let's hear how it sounds like right now, as it is with a very high retune speed.
My Messiah, He's able to heal. My Messiah, He's able to heal.
That sounds more accurate to me. It didn't mess up too much. And while you hearing that artificial way of the voice, because I have it very, very high, I'm going to be fixing that, okay? So I just want you to kind of see what the auto tune is, okay? Of course, you can change your views to do some more, to have some more parameters to work with, okay? You can change to graph mode if you plan on doing some of those tuning that I was doing in Melodyne. You could also do it here too, okay? Again, that's not my focus. My focus is to use this just for pitch correction, okay? So let's change the view back, okay? So the way I like to work with this is normally set to 20, okay? I like to always make this high or somewhere between 7 and 0, and then I go backwards. That's how I like to work. So for now, I'm going to work with 0. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this flex tune to kind of find a range to make it a bit normal. Then I'm going to use the humanize to also help to make it a bit more human-like, okay? Especially with the harmonic, the vibratos and stuff like that, or the where the note is being stretched, okay? So here.
My Messiah, He's able to heal. My Messiah, He's
So you realize it's kind of clean, but it's still shaky and all that. So this is why I'm going to be pulling it back to help make it more normal.
able to heal. My Messiah, He's 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 able to heal.
You guys see that? So now it sounds cleaner, right? It's not shaking. Normal is getting some effect of the auto tune. We good to go, all right? So now that I have that in place, I'm basically almost done with my dry signals. So now that I have that auto tune, my last thing is to add a little bit of compression to break it up front. The compression that I like to use, compressor that I like to use, well, sometimes I may do an SSL compression just to kind of get that that level of some type of more compression, that type of thing. Not always do I do this. I'm not gonna lie to you. Okay? But what I normally would do is I would do um, CLA3A mono, okay, and then kind of that kind of just does the trick for me. Okay, so let me turn it off. Hear how it sounds like without it.
My Messiah, He's able to heal.
Okay, with it.
My Messiah,
You see, it comes like in your face, right? Up front in your face.
He's able to heal. My Messiah, He's able to heal. My
Normally, I don't make much changes to it, but if I do, it's normally just a few decibels in between, okay? So I normally don't make a lot of changes.
Messiah, He
Of course, it has presets if you want to work with them, but I find, I guess maybe if you want to hear how vibrant Vox sound like, you can try it. If you want to hear how Vox sound like, you can try it. But for me, like I said, this does the trick for me. But let's just, for the sake of the tutorial.
my
Okay.
Messiah, He's able to heal. My
Okay.
Messiah,
So that's what it gives it.
He's
Okay.
able to heal.
All right. So, all right. So I'm just going to reset it.
my Messiah. He's able to heal 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 my Messiah.
All right, cool. And for me, I'm almost done. So the next thing I like to do in my chain, I go ahead and add a bus. Okay, and in that bus, I'm gonna call it maybe reverb one, okay, or reverb, voice reverb, whatever you want to call it, okay. Then I'm gonna add any reverb will work, okay. For the sake of time, I'm gonna use our verb stereo, and you can leave it as is, or you can do one that best fits. So I'm gonna normally I like to work with the plate reverbs. Then I clean it up with some high cuts and low cuts just to kind of not make it too muddy. But let's hear how it sounds like.
My Messiah, He's able to heal. My Messiah, He's able. My Messiah, He's able to heal my Messiah. He's able to heal my Messiah. He's able to heal my Messiah. He's able to heal my Messiah.
All right, again, you can do a lot of things, okay? Here are the scans. This is the new look, okay? If you want to go with that, or you want to go with that, or you want to stick with your legacy. I stick with legacy a lot because that's all I'm used to working in, okay? I don't like fancy stuff. All right, so here, for the sake of this, we're going to use chamber. It sounds nice to me. Again, I normally use play one for most of my mixes. It's not a big deal, whichever one you go with, okay? They'll all work, okay? And there are other reverbs that will work well too, okay? So a few things. If you want it more dry, you're going to have to turn this down, the wet and dry down, so that you don't get too much wetness. And also, if you want the reverb to be longer, then you're going to need to work with some of these settings to get it that way. And if you want it to delay, you're going to need to kind of work with some of these to get it that way, okay? I don't do anything with those really in my mixing. I just go ahead and cut the low, cut the high, and that does it for me, okay? So I'm going to cut some low, cut some high, okay?
He's able to my Messiah. He's able to heal my
That sounds good to me. So now that I've done that, I can go ahead and decide the amount that I want, because by default, Studio One adds the amount, okay? So let's hear it with less amount
Messiah.
and then with more amount.
He's able to heal.
So you have to decide between less reverb,
you, my Messiah.
and then more reverb.
He's able to heal my.
Okay, so you have to decide where you want it at. Okay, for the sake of not doing much, I'm gonna actually, for the sake of not kind of saving time, I'm gonna just leave it like this for now and probably have it, yeah, just have a little.
My
That way you can barely hear it. Okay, so now you guys see how I went through with this. So you would need to go through all these vocals and repeat the process for all of them. For the sake of not wasting time, we are going to duplicate all these settings on all the tracks because it's the same lady doing all these songs. And for the most part, the voices are accurate except here where it gets a bit thicker in a way, but not that much of a big deal. Okay, it's probably because of my screen being so, me making it so big. Okay, so I don't think it's a big deal. So let's go ahead and copy all these settings on here. Okay, because if we try to do all of it one by one, it's going to be the same process, but then just going to be a long video. Okay, so I don't want that. I want to keep it short. So let's go ahead. You see, I copied it. I'm going to just paste the settings there. Okay. And then I'm going to go ahead, paste the settings there. Okay. I'm just basically copying. That's it. Copying and pasting. Okay. To all the BVs. So the same settings. Okay. Anytime I'm lazy in mixing, this is what I do. But then I got to go back and listen to it to make sure they are where it needs to be. Okay, so in this example, we have this. So I'm going to bring his other part.
Able to heal my Messiah.
Okay, so
He's able to heal my.
so the second one, this is with it with the treatment.
He's able
No treatment.
to heal
No treatment.
my
Okay,
Messiah.
with treatment.
He's able to heal.
So you can tell it's almost about the same as the first. Okay, so that's what I was telling you. Okay, if you want to save time, go ahead, skip all that. Okay, cool. So now that you have that, just balance it out. Okay, so for me personally, I play both of it, try and get it balanced so that one don't sound louder than the other. So sometimes I will intentionally boost one higher just to kind of see which is which. Okay,
He's able to heal my Messiah. He's able to heal my Messiah.
okay, cool. That sounds good to me. Okay, so now that I have that, okay, the next thing that I'll be doing is I'm going to bring the others in one by one, but I'm gonna unsolo one of this because if I don't, it's gonna sound like this one is too, the first part is too powerful than this. So I like to just take one out so I can listen to the other part. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna slowly bring it in, okay? Slowly bring it in. We've done all the treatments. Now I'm gonna slowly bring it in. And anyways, it would have been up anyways, but just so you get the idea.
He's able to heal my Messiah. He's able to heal my Messiah. He's able to heal.
All right, so now that I have that, I'm going to take this off and then bring the other part of this new note, this new part in.
My Messiah is able to heal.
Okay.
My Messiah is
Okay.
able to heal. My Messiah is able to heal.
So you guys realize with these low notes, it kind of make the auto tune kind of some type of way, right? If you do realize. So what one thing we could do,
Messiah is able.
so remember we are not going to do the voice fixes, right? You already know that, okay? We are not going to be doing it, okay? So take time and do those things because the voice might not be all perfect. Okay. So, anyways, here let's fix this. So we're gonna lower the auto tune.
To heal my Messiah is able to heal my Messiah is able to heal my Messiah is able to heal my Messiah.
I'm just messing with those settings. Don't worry about what I'm doing. Okay. It's essentially the same thing. Okay. So now I'm gonna copy this over here so my low notes can be in the same profile.
He's able to heal my Messiah. He's able to heal.
I think it sounds better. Okay. So now we go to the next part. So now that I've done that, I'm gonna leave the first two parts while I bring in the last, well, the second to last part, or the third part.
My Messiah is able to heal. My Messiah.
The idea is you need to hear all the parts. One cannot be louder than the other. You need to be able to hear the part that is doing my. You need to hear the part that's doing my. You need to hear the part that's doing so my, my. You know, you need to hear all that, okay? So you can hear everything. Okay, you need to hear all those parts.
My Messiah is able to heal. My Messiah is able to heal.
All right, so that is that. And then now that I have it like that, I like it. I'm gonna bring in the other part of that and take these out. Again, my goal is to make sure it sounds balanced. Okay, so I'm looking for balanced mixing. That's my top priority.
My Messiah is able to heal.
So sometimes I will solo this and solo, solo this and solo, so I can hear the left and I can hear. Well, right now I don't have it panned. It's okay. I have it like that on purpose. And also you are hearing it like that weird way on purpose because I don't have it panned yet. So it sounds like duplicates together. That's why it sounds like that. But I'll be panning.
My Messiah is able to heal. My Messiah is able to heal. My Messiah is able to heal. My Messiah.
So I was auditioning them to make sure they can be heard, whichever is selected. So now that I have that, let's go to the final part. The final part might not be like it is something everywhere, but at least over here it is. Okay, meaning it's not like every part has a fourth part. No, they probably did it to add some extras. Okay, so let's work on that. So right now we have this, this, and this right now. Now we're going to bring the last part in.
He's able to heal. My Messiah. He's able.
I think it's perfect where it is. It's perfect where it is. This one was not hard. It's perfect. Now, here all over, you can hear all the harmonies, right?
My Messiah, he's able to heal. My Messiah, he's able to heal.
Okay, so now that I have it like that, I'm now going to bring in the other side of it so that I can hear both. Okay.
My Messiah, he's able to heal. My Messiah, he's able.
So I'm going to audition the other side of the last part with the rest. I just want to hear how it sounds together.
To heal. My Messiah, he's able to heal. My Messiah, he's able to heal.
Okay, so let's just say we like it, okay? And then we are just gonna just let it all play so we can hear how they all sound together.
My Messiah, he's able to heal. My Messiah, he's able to heal.
So if you hear it's me, my voice, it doesn't mean it's part of the recording. It's my breathing. So I got to talk to you guys, okay? So all those extra noise you're hearing is from this microphone that I'm talking to you about. I'm talking to you from. But I want you to hear before and after so you can see the work we have done. So I'm going to turn off all the effects. Hear how it sounds without treatment. This is without treatment.
He's able to heal. My Messiah, he's able to heal.
All right, you guys hear that, right? So now with treatment, let's see how it sounds like.
My Messiah, he's able
So it's beautiful, right? Cool. So now that we have it this way, oh, so there's a mistake that I have here. So over here, whenever I brought it over, it created a duplicate. Oh, I see what went on. So this here is a negative 12, and this here is a negative 20. So those were the low notes. Let me see. So um, I think if I'm not mistaken, we took it to negative 20. These ones are the negative 12s. Yeah. So let's go with this. So what we're going to do is we're going to delete this and we're going to take this over here. So now they all look the same. Okay. So now the low will now have negative the 20, and then the other part of it will also have the 20. Okay. Because I remember we did that. Okay, to just kind of reduce it. Okay, cool. So now that we have it like this, the next thing we got to talk about is separation. Right now, they all sound together.
My Messiah.
How can we make it sound beautiful so it sounds spread out? So that is what we call panning. So here's my concept with panning. So let's take example. Um, we are gonna just solo just one track.
He's able, my Messiah.
Okay, so you see how it's playing. My goal is to make sure that in panning, when you go all the way to the left, that means you want to go very, 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 very far to your left ear. If you want to go very far right, that means you want to go very, very, very far to your very far right ear. Here's the problem. If you pan something, we call it, and you pan it that hard, we call it hard pan. If you hard pan something that is very important, the chances of you losing it in your master or in later in your mix is going to be higher. The chances of it not being able to play in certain monitors is going to be higher. So the more closer it is to the middle, the more likely it is going to play. Okay? So what does that tell you? Is it a good idea to pan vocals all the way to the left? It doesn't mean there's a wrong answer or there's a right answer. You can. Some people like to do hard pans on vocals. It's cool, but for me, my concept is do about 70, 65, 70 to about 80% of that. So in other words, full side is 100. Okay, either way, either direction, full side is 100. Okay, that's my way of looking at it. Then if I'm halfway through there, it's about 50%. And if I'm past it a little bit, it's about 70, 60. And that's kind of what I'm talking about. I want you to be somewhere in between there and not hard pan it. Okay. So if you have to do it that way, then the number in Studio One that kind of gives you that is going to be anywhere from 60 or 65 to right about maybe 80s, maybe 80. So I would say between 60 to 80. Okay. My advice is let's go with 70. Okay. 70. Okay. So we are going to do this left 70. Okay. And so now that we have panned that to the left, we are going to pan her other partner to the right, opposite of the same thing. So now it's going to sound spread out. So hear it. You see, at first it was standing in the middle, but now it's playing wide in your ears. Okay, that's what we are looking for. So what are we doing? This is called panning. This is what this process is, panning.
He's able to heal.
So while I do that, I'm gonna add the rest, and I'm just gonna let it keep playing. Just hear how it sounds. Okay, all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pan the first ones to the left, the second ones to the right. First ones left, right, left, right, left, right. Okay, that's all I'm gonna do. Just hear how it sounds like as it keeps playing.
My Messiah, He is able to heal. My Messiah, He is able to heal. My Messiah, He is able to heal. My Messiah, He is able to.
So at first it all sounded far in the middle, but now you see left 70, right 70, left 70, right 70, left 70, right 70, left 70, right 70. So now they are all being panned out evenly. Okay. If you are the kind of person who decide to do this 65 and this 40 and this whatever, that's up to you. But that's something I've come to learn in mixing, that you want it to be balanced. Okay, so it can sound more balanced, but it's up to you, whatever you feel is best for you. But this is my standard way of doing it.
My Messiah, He is able to heal. My Messiah, He is able to heal.
Okay, so you guys see how that sounds like, right? So now, remember we did the reverb, right? There was a reason why I didn't really add it. Now we are going to add that reverb now. And so now when we add that reverb, we should get a very nice effect of this. Okay, so I'm going to select it all. Normally, I don't like to do one by one because they are all kind of the same. So I like to just do it all in one take. So I'm going to add reverb one, and it's going to give a lot. But we are going to slowly bring it in, okay? But first, let's just take it down. And then we're going to gradually bring it in, okay? We can see a big bottom, but, you know, yeah, that's fine. So we're going to gradually bring it in. So let's hear it, and then we're going to bring it in.
My Messiah, He is able to heal. My Messiah, He is able.
Too much reverb is bad, so be careful. But the good news with me is I already cut the lows and the highs, so you don't really get to hear the impact too much, even if I take it heavy. That was the reason why I did all those cuts in my reverb treatment. But if you just drop it on, be careful, okay? All right, so you guys hear that? And congratulations, you have yourself the vocal mixing. Now, for you to hear the impact of what we've done, I'm going to drop on a limiter, something like maybe an L. Let's do an L1, right? Maybe. Yeah. Nah, I don't want to do an L1. Oh, should we do the what is this name? One of those fat filters limiters. I don't really use it as much, but okay. Let's not do that. Let me just stick with L3. Oh, come on. L3. One thing I like about Studio One, you can search for the plugin. Some softwares you can't. Like Logic, it's hard to go through all these menus. So I like the fact that we can search in Studio One. It really helps. Okay. All right. So L3. Let's go ahead and do the multi-mixer, multi-maximizer, and let's send it here. Let's make it huge. Actually, let me make this huge so you kind of get a feel. Again, remember, this is not the finished song. We are only working on vocals. So I'm only adding this so you can hear the vocal well. Okay, cool. So again, I'm not really going to talk about limiting. I'm just going to kind of just explain some basics to you. All that I'm going to do is I'm going to find a good range, and then I'm just going to pull it up, the out ceiling up, and then the threshold, I'm going to find the right threshold for it. Okay, so normally I like to link it together, and then I'll go about it that way. So something like this. I like to do it heavy so that when I see where it's getting washed out, I can go back and find the clean side. So now that I found kind of a sweet spot, now I'm going to take the out ceiling up to 0. Now you can decide to take it up small, and just find your range and stay there. But I'm not. I'm going to take it to 0. Then I'm going to find the right threshold. Okay.
My Messiah, He's able to heal. My Messiah, He's able to heal. My Messiah, He's able to heal.
So you see, now that I put that limiter on, you can really hear it. It's not a finished song. This is just to give you a feel. All right. So now that I did that, now you see you can really hear that reverb. So this is why I told you, be careful with reverb or you can mess up your recordings. Okay. So now it's a good example so you get to see it. Okay. So now I'm going to have to reduce it so you guys hear it good enough. Not too much, but good enough. Okay.
My Messiah, He's able to heal. My Messiah, He's able to heal.
All right. So you guys see where we came from? So we came from untreated. This is it without treatment, just the limiter, no treatment. Sorry, no treatment, just the limiter.
Messiah, He's able to heal. My Messiah, He's able to heal.
Of course, no treatment, and it's just the limiter, and of course the panning. So now with the treatment, this is how it sounds like.
My Messiah, He's able to heal. My Messiah, He's able to heal.
Cool. So if you were to really be doing this song seriously, and you needed some helpful tips on how to, let's say you really like your mix, but you are not getting the reads you want. You see, like this, bad 30 and all that.
My Messiah, He's able to heal.
So it's picking peaking somewhere around -1, okay? So maybe that's too hot for you, then you're gonna have to lower it. But what if you don't want to mess up the way you have balanced it and make a mistake? So then you gotta consider maybe creating a VCA channel. So for example, you select all those BVs, then you right click, and then you go to add VCA for selected channels. So now that you have it, when you play, sorry. So now that you have it, when you play the VCA, these are vocals, okay? So I'm just gonna call it vocals. So now it's all gonna be grouped to one channel, okay? And now you can control it that way. So then you can reduce it and then it will help. But when you reduce it, you'll see that it will reduce here too, okay? So the screen is not showing. It's not big enough for you to see, but that's what is going to happen. And let me do the instruments so that way it helps you to see what I'm talking about. So for example, the instruments, I group them all, and I do right click and I say that, and I can say INST for instruments, okay? So once I do that, watch, when I solo, it solos all, you see? And solo, just one click, you see? And then if I move, it moves all, you see? You see how it's moving all? So that's what I'm talking about. So in this instance, once you are done with your mixing of everything, you can create VCA channels. So that way you can use it to kind of do your final touches to get everything to be where you need it to be. So for example, in this example, say based on the instrumentation, if I wanted to play, so just so you guys know, I haven't mixed this. This is actually a project we are doing, so I cannot really actively work on it. I'm only trying to help the question that Christian Ofosu asked, the request to do vocal mixing. But if you mix all your pads and everything and all that, you just have to add it in, okay? So I'm not going to go into that. It's going to make this even way longer, okay, than it already is. So you guys get a feel, okay? So you see what I'm doing? I'm lowering it, right? And it's controlling all these. So you guys see that? So with a few clicks, we got this. Again, I cannot play everything because it's a song that we're actually working on, okay? I just wanted to use it as a learning point for, you know, the brother who asked Christian. Okay, you guys see that? And then the last part of the song is a different song. We can hear it also.
Power and might belongs to our God forever and ever. Amen.
You can simply take the instrument out by just unsoloing.
Power and might belongs to our God.
can bring it back in by just clicking again. You guys kind of get the idea, right? So congratulations if you've stayed with me for however long we've went. What is it? Almost about 2 hours. Then you've learned how to properly mix vocals, worship vocals, right? This applies to any language, whether it's English, contemporary, whatever. It applies. You might do certain things slightly different, but the same concept will, for the most part, do the job, okay? Whether you are going to do buses and all that, or you're going to do bus compressions and mono comparisons, whatever you plan to do is going to work. But if you can stick to this formula and a chain similar to this all the time, you're always going to have clean recordings, okay? So, I mean, clean mixes, okay? So, let's hear it one more time. We're going to hear the first part that we did. I'm going to lower the instrument a little bit so we can focus more on the vocals, because that is the purpose of this video. One more time, then we'll go to the last part. Okay, so let's listen to the last part. Power and might. Power and might. Then I will leave you guys.
Power and might belongs to our God forever and ever. Amen. Amen. Forever and ever. Amen. Power and might belongs to our God forever and ever. Amen. Power and might belongs to our God forever and ever. Amen. Amen. Forever and ever. Amen. Amen. Forever and ever. Amen. Amen. Forever and ever. Amen. My Messiah, He's able to lift. My Messiah, He's able to lift.
So, so those sounds you are hearing, those are like the gates working heavy. That's why you hear it. But when the song come together, it's hard to catch those things because of the instruments and everything. However, that's the work of the gate.
My Messiah, He's able to protect. My Messiah, He's able to protect.
All right, let's do Power and Might one more time, and I'm out of your way. All vocals.
Power and might belongs to our God forever and ever. Amen. Power and might belongs to our God forever and ever. Amen.
All right, and for the last part, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pretend the instruments are mixed, and I'm adding the voice. What is a good balance? Okay, that's what I'm gonna do for the last part. So let me take all these out. Maybe, yeah, that's fine. So I'm gonna now balance it a little bit. Remember, it's not really mixed, but I'm gonna pretend. We are gonna pretend it's mixed, and then I'm gonna work in the vocals. So normally, what I do is I take out the vocals, and then I get the strings and the instruments where I need it to be. Then I gradually will go ahead and sorry, I gradually will go ahead and add the vocals. Okay, so here's how it's gonna be. This is an example of that. Okay, so first I'm gonna let me just unsolo, and I'm just gonna bring the vocals. I'm gonna do the instruments, then I'll bring in the vocals. Okay.
Forever and ever. Amen. Power and might belongs to our God.
That sounds very sweet. It's like a sweet spot. Okay, and that is it, guys. I mean, it's just that beautiful and that simple.
Power and might belongs to our God forever and ever.
Oh, the instruments I have it muted on. Interesting. So I had it muted. So let me unmute. So let's try it again.
Power and might belongs to our God forever and ever. Amen. Power and might belongs to our God forever and ever. Amen.
All right, cool. I hope it helped you guys. I hope this was good. This is the little I can, do to help you guys. I took about over 2 hours to help you guys. I hope it is a blessing to you, and I hope you learn from this. Okay. All right. Like there's so much processing that I can do, but for the sake of time and keeping it simple, these are the basic fundamentals you need to learn about um, how you need to treat a vocal chain. Okay, of course, you can go about it with different ways by using all kinds of plugins to treat it. If you are somebody who likes to just kind of build a chain through different types of processing and doing some type of parallel compression and that kind of thing, hey, go for it. Okay, for me, I keep things simple. I'm an old school guy. Keep things simple. Stick to the basics. That's me. Okay. All right. I hope this helped you, and I hope you enjoyed the lesson. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Once again, this was a tutorial to go over how you properly treat worship vocals. Okay, and this can apply to other songs like praises and all that too, but for the purpose of the request, this was for mixing worship vocals. Okay, and again, it's a response to Christian Ofosu. Again, we kind of learned some basics where you normally have to um, go ahead and do some pre steps where you s- you make everything dry on the channel. Okay, then after that you just basically solo one track or bring one track up, either way is fine, and then start treating the chain that way. Okay, and then also find like the spot you want to work on, or else you're gonna have to keep clicking around all the time. If you don't want to be doing that, solo a part that is busy with as many of the vocals or the thing you are working on, and then just do it that way, okay? And then once you do it, you'll be good. So once you build the chain, then you add some effects to it, some you can add some phasing effects if you need to, but me, I just do reverb for BVs, and then and then you do your panning. Okay, panning is a must. Never leave a song all centered, or it's gonna all be um mashed together, and it's not gonna sound beautiful. In the tree dialect, we say ibituabum, ibituabum. What we are trying to say is it doesn't have any form of separation, and so you will not see the cleanliness. You will not see the separation, the stereo width. You will not really have that. Okay, so if you don't want it to sound like that and you want it to sound as clean as possible, the best thing for you to do is go ahead and pan it the right way. Okay, all right, cool. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. Okay, um, well, that will do for this lesson. You all have a good one. Again, I know I didn't bring my my text on because I was more focused um on teaching. So this was vocal mixing. Okay, so as you guys can see on the screen, this is vocal mixing. I hope it has helped you. Okay, all right, cool. Well, that will do it for this lesson. I hope you guys have a good one. Until next time, remain blessed. God be with you all. Please subscribe to our channel if you're on YouTube, L4C Multimedia. If you're on Facebook, like our page, follow our page, Live for Christ Multimedia Studios, and Chemical TV, also Chemical TV on YouTube as well. And follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Okay. All right, cool. I hope you guys have been blessed. Keep supporting us and keep sharing our content, and let's continue to grow together. Okay. If you need any help with anything you feel like I can be of an assistance to you, you are just a call, text, or email away. Okay. Don't hesitate. Reach out and let's see what we can do for you. Okay. All right. Remain blessed. God be with you all. Bye bye.
Thanks for watching.